Yes, welcome once again, everybody. Cannabis News with Joe Klare. This is June 27, 2018. Presented by the Marijuana Times. Check us out at marijuanatimes.org. All the great articles, all the great writers, all the news and info you need. marijuanatimes.org. Click that video tab as well to find Cannabis News. Find the videos, share them on your social media networks. You can also search the Marijuana Times on Apple Podcasts to get the audio-only version of the show. Today we're talking about teen marijuana use in Colorado continues to decline. Also talking about big news out of Oklahoma yesterday when it comes to medical marijuana, and an update on whether or not you'll be able to buy recreational marijuana in Massachusetts on July 1st. All of that is coming up. At first, of course, Cannabis News is brought to you by Natureside, nature-side.com. Their line of organic, all-natural pesticides, grow safe and poison-free. Don't use harmful chemicals on your grow, and make sure you are regulatory compliant in the state that you are growing in. You can do all of these things with Natureside. The site is spelled C-I-D-E, nature-side.com, a proud sponsor of Cannabis News. This first story, buy yours truly over at marijuanatimes.org. Teen marijuana use in Colorado continues to decline. To go back to 2011, just before, of course, November 2012, Amendment 64 passed in Colorado legalizing recreational adult use sales in the state. If you go back to 2011, 22% of Colorado high school students reported using marijuana within the past 30 days. That number has fallen to 21.2% in 2015, and now high schoolers in Colorado reporting use in the last 30 days has fallen to 19.6%. So it's from 2011. It's fallen from 22 to 19.6. The national average itself is 19.8. So the national average is higher than the amount of kids, than the percentage of kids, high schoolers, that are using marijuana, quote unquote, on a regular basis since or in Colorado, where adult use legalization, we were told by prohibitionists, is their favorite tactic. What about the children? The children. Won't someone please think of the children? I have the wrong graphic there. There we go. See? I gotta watch myself. You people need to watch me. Somebody should have told me, hey, Joe, the wrong graphic's up there. That's the next one. Failed grade today for the directing. Teen marijuana use continues to fall in Colorado. We were told that would not happen. We were told that not only is marijuana dangerous for teens, which nobody's advocating that teens should use cannabis, but they're going to use more of it with legalization. They're going to have more access. People who are for legalization said, no, that's not going to happen. Drug dealers don't check IDs. It'd be much harder for them to get cannabis. Plus, when the stigma, the forbidden part of cannabis is reduced, teens are going to be less likely to want to experiment with it. We were right once again. Prohibitionists were wrong once again in their cries of, what about the children? Well, the children are using less cannabis, or using cannabis less often in Colorado, where supposedly there's going to be willy-nilly access, 15-year-olds walking into retail stores and getting weed or stealing from their brother or whatever. Those things are not happening. Use is falling, and the number one talking point of the prohibitionists is falling by the wayside. Everything else is, they've lost everything else. All they had left was the children, and now they can't fall back on that. And well, that's a problem. Not for legalization, not for cannabis users, not for freedom in general, but for those who are against marijuana legalization. That's I can't say that I feel bad for them to have that problem, but it is what it is. Don't lie. You wouldn't have a problem, would you? It's the next story. News from WashingtonPost.com. News out of Oklahoma. Voters in that state just approved one of the most progressive medical marijuana bills in the country. On Tuesday, Oklahoma voters approved a medical marijuana bill, making the state the 30th in the nation to permit the use of marijuana with a doctor's recommendation. The measure is notable for reflecting one of the most permissive medical cannabis policies in the country. While most states specify a narrow list of medical conditions for which doctors can recommend the plant, and Oklahoma doctors will be able to recommend it for any condition. Now, the governor's calling a special session because regulations are going to be put in place. I seriously doubt that after all the regulations are gone through, that let the patients and doctors pick from any list of ailments part of it is going to survive. They're going to make a list. I mean, and whether that list is challenged in the courts and eventually overturned, whatever, but the legislature and the governor is going to say, no, this is not going to happen. It's not going to be for anything that the doctor feels like it should be for. There's going to be a specific list that they're going to put in the regulations, along with a lot of other regulations concerning the industry in Oklahoma. The conservative governor and the conservative state house are going to leave their mark on this bill right now. As it stands, Oklahoma patients with a license will be able to possess up to 8 ounces of marijuana in their residences and carry up to 3 ounces and grow up to 12 marijuana plants. Look for the legislature in Oklahoma to bring those numbers down too. Again, whether that'll survive a court challenge, that remains to be seen. But the challenge there will be, because the legislature in Oklahoma is not going to just say, oh yeah, no qualifying conditions, 12 plants, you can carry 3 ounces around with you out in public. They're not going to do that. There's absolutely no way. Mark my words, save this show, bookmark it, whatever. It's June 27th, 2018. I'm predicting right now these things are not going to survive a trip through the legislature. Additionally, Oklahoma's measure reduces penalties for the possession of up to 1.5 ounces of marijuana for any individual with a medical condition, regardless of whether they have a medical marijuana license. I don't expect that to survive the legislature either. Fallon, the governor, said in a statement, she will, quote, be discussing with legislative leaders and state agencies our options going forward on how best to proceed with adding a medical and a proper regulatory framework to make sure medical use is truly for valid medical illnesses. They're just basically saying right there, there's going to be a list. They're going to create a list of ailments. They're going to decide on it in the legislature. They're going to vote on it, and that's what's going to be the regulations set out. Like I said, whether or not there survives court challenge, we'll see. But for now, if the Oklahoma medical marijuana patients get what it is right now, that will be amazing. It'll be amazing. It'll be the best medical marijuana program since California's unregulated days. You won't get any better than what Oklahoma voted on. And even with Senator James Lankford bad-mouthing it, and all the stuff we talked about on this show regarding Oklahoma medical marijuana and the battle back and forth, all the money that was spent in the last week by opponents of medical marijuana in Oklahoma, none of that mattered. 57% voted to approve medical marijuana, a very permissive medical marijuana bill in Oklahoma. We'll see how long it lasts and what the legislature does. Of course, we'll tell you all about that in future episodes of Cannabis News. This last story is from WBUR.org. You won't be able to buy legal recreational marijuana in Massachusetts on July 1st. I wrote an article and I talked about it recently. I think it was yesterday's show, the day before, about how initially only medical marijuana dispensaries, established medical marijuana dispensaries, are going to be allowed to sell recreational marijuana. July 1st was the first is the date when it can, or the earliest it can happen. But the problem is there's not a testing laboratory that has been approved. A license for a testing laboratory has not been approved. So not even medical marijuana dispensaries. No one will have legal recreational cannabis in Massachusetts on July 1st. Although industry regulators expect to approve business licenses next week, there can be no legal retail sales until an independent testing laboratory applies and is licensed by the Cannabis Control Commission in Massachusetts. The commission formally asked its staff to prioritize the review of license applications for independent testing laboratories. In other words, if you apply as a testing laboratory in Massachusetts, you move to the front of the queue when it comes to possibly getting the license, because the whole supply chain shuts down there. They can't go from growing the marijuana to getting to the retail without passing through the testing laboratory step. Regulators are targeted July 1st, the beginning of legal retail sales, but so far regulators have only approved one provisional license for a cultivation facility in Milford, Massachusetts. Chairman Steve Hoffman said the commission will not consider additional licenses until July 2nd. So if you're in Massachusetts and you're hoping for July 1st to go buy some adult use marijuana, you can forget it. So far, the commission has not received any completed license applications for independent testing labs, though one lab has begun its application. We do have one lab application that's in the queue, Hoffman said. We've talked to the labs, the 4 operators of the medical marijuana labs, and our expectation, I don't have timing, but our expectation is that they'll all apply. Well, this is the time. If you're going to apply for an independent testing lab application or any application in Massachusetts, now is the time. Get on it. There's going to be no adult use marijuana July 1st. Initially, it was supposed to be January, and then the legislature pushed it back to July. And now it's going to be pushed back even further because apparently not enough people are applying for these licenses. So if you're in Massachusetts, get on it. What are you waiting for? If you're an independent testing lab in Massachusetts, this is it. They're going to move you to the front of the line. They want you. So get to it. That's what a lot of the shows become. Me doing rah-rah speeches for people, telling them to get to it. Whatever I got to do, we'll do it. Cannabis news. Thanks everybody for checking us out. Check us out on Vimeo, vimeo.com/marijuana_times_X. Click that video tab on marijuanatimes.org. Of course, get the swag, make cannabis great again.com. Keep spreading the word about the show. Keep sharing it on your social media networks. And we'll see you next time on Cannabis News.